Yay! Welcome everyone to the Speaker Brand Code. Oh my goodness, this is live. So, really happy that you all stopped here to hang out for lunch because you should have your favorite drink. And for me, that is water, just water. And so, welcome again to the Speaker Brand Code Live. Really excited that we are doing this together because I do believe that it is an important conversation to have. And so we got to get into it. I'm your host, Lena Castle. And if this is the first time that you are doing this with me, welcome. I'm so excited to have you. And just to give you a little bit about me, I am the speaker brand strategist. This is going to be a weekly conversation for speakers who know getting booked is only part of the equation. Like that's just a part. And around here, we talk about the business behind your brand because trust is built long before you ever step on stage. Whether you're pursuing your first keynote or your 50th, my goal is simple to help you build a speaker brand that is trusted, ready, and positioned for the opportunities that you want most. So I'm glad that you are hanging out for lunch. And as you're joining me, tell me where you are tuning in from in the comments. And if you're catching the replay later, let me know that too, because I do come back and I read every comment. So if something resonates today with you or you have a question, please leave it down below. I'd love to continue the conversation with you. So make sure to grab your lunch. Let's spend the next 30 minutes together. This is going to be so much fun. So let's talk about what the heck, what is the speaker brand? Why does it exist? Because before I was known as a speaker brand strategist, I founded the Professional Speakers Concierge Service. A lot of people assumed my role was working with speakers. Um, it wasn't the only role. Our client, about 85% of the time, was actually the event organizer, and our role was to help them create an exceptional speaker experience. So my team collected the presentations, we reviewed the speaker assets, we coordinated with the AV and production teams, and we scheduled the speaker kickoff calls. Yes, though, and if you've ever been on one, yes, all those calls. So we communicated the expectations between the client and the speaker. We made sure that the speakers understood the audience demographics, the event goals, what success looked like for the client, and everything that needed to happen before they ever stepped onto the stage. We even created what we called the green room experience for the speakers. So every detail was intentional. What did the speaker see? What did they hear? What did they touch? What did they eat? All of that, knowing their allergies, even what it is that they smelled. We had certain candles because we believed excellence isn't one big moment. It's hundreds of intentional details working together. But over the years, something began happening because my team, like we work directly with the event organizers. And so I was invited to conversations that speakers are almost never a part of. So I sat in the post event debrief. So sometimes we do a debrief with the speakers, but then we do an event debrief. And I got to hear what worked, what didn't work, who's going to be invited back next year. I heard the frustrations, the pain points, the missed expectations. I heard what decision makers wished speakers understood before they even stepped on stage. And I realized that speakers need this information. And because most of the feedback that could completely transform someone's speaking business never actually reached them. So all of the feedback, it inspired me to create the speaker brand code. It's not a course, it's not a checklist, it's a professional standard. It's the philosophy I wish every established speaker understood. And mind you, they're established. You've been doing this for some time because professional speaking isn't simply about getting booked. It's about becoming the kind of speaker decision makers trust. And so over time, I really became obsessed with just one question. What separates a good speaker from the speaker everyone wants to bring back? The answer was not talent, it was standards. And today I want to share three of those standards with you. Number one, clarity before visibility. One of the biggest mistakes I see speakers make is believing visibility will solve clarity problems. So they will update their speaker website, book another headshot or a photo shoot, creating another speaker reel, posting more content, refreshing their bio. And none of these things are bad. Okay. But visibility simply amplifies what already exists. So if your positioning isn't clear, if your message isn't clear, if you haven't clearly defined the audience you serve or the transformation you create, more visibility simply creates more confusion. I remember supporting a large conference where the closing speaker had everything. She had a beautiful brand, professional website, great reputation, and she was absolutely qualified. And before the conference, every speaker received a brief from our client, not just the topic, but our client for this event shared exactly what she wanted the audience to experience. She also communicated what transformation that she wanted people to leave with and what success looked like and when it came time for her specific keynote and she was the closing speaker, she spent most of the presentation talking about herself. She never truly connected her expertise back to the audience, and she hadn't been in the room throughout the 3 days, so she missed the flow of the event and what attendees had already experienced. The MC actually had to step in and help to re-engage and reconnect the audience before closing out the actual conference. Now, was she talented? Absolutely. Was she visible? Yes. But clarity was missing. Not clarity about who she was, but a clarity about the assignment, clarity about the audience, and clarity about the transformation. She had been invited to talk about specific topics that related to the goals of the event, and trust quietly eroded. And that's why clarity before visibility is so important. Okay, code number 2, position before promotion. Now, this second standard is, I just remember, I'll just say this. I remember a conversation I had with a speaker who was excited about every opportunity, every conference, every stage, every everything. Okay. And I finally asked, like, who are you trying to serve? They weren't sure. And I asked, what transformation do you create? The person hesitated. What organization should be hiring you? Again, silence. They wanted promotion before positioning. And here's how I define positioning. Positioning is knowing where your expertise creates the greatest value. It answers questions like, who needs me? Why me? What transformation do I create? Why should this audience trust me? I think these are wonderful questions, but positioning also requires research, understanding your industry, understanding the problems your audience is trying to solve. And also, I do believe that knowing whether your expertise genuinely solves that problem and knowing whether the organizations you're pursuing actually value what you bring, because the goal isn't simply to speak more. The goal is to bring you into the right rooms with the right audience, creating the right impact. Mm, I even sit with that. Code number 3, every interaction builds trust. And one of my favorite examples comes from just working alongside Terry Ijeoma during her immersive event called Take Your First Trade. And the production was incredible. Her speakers flew in from all over the country, and everything was intentional. She invited Rachel Rogers, the Budgetnista, Anthony O'Neill, and others, other respected voices. But what stood out to me wasn't simply who was on the stage, it was why. Because those relationships already existed. Trust had already been built and value had already been exchanged. And people often asked me the question, how do I find more speaking opportunities? And I actually think that that is the wrong question. A better question is, how am I building trust? Because when someone says they need more stages, what I often hear is they need more relationships. Because the biggest opportunities usually don't begin with an application. They begin with trust, a conversation, a referral, someone remembering how you showed up on stage. It could be an email. Every conversation, every follow-up, every event, every interaction is either building trust or quietly taking away from it. I think that that is just so interesting. I think that these conversations are so important. So today, it's not about like just the three mistakes that speakers are making. It's about three standards that I believe every professional speaker should hold themselves to. And this is why I created the speaker brand code, the speaker brand code. It's the professional standard for established speakers who want to become the kind of speaker decision makers trust before they ever step on the stage. Not because they have the loudest brand and not because they're the most visible, but because every part of their business communicates professionalism, clarity, consistency, and confidence. And mind you, these are just three of the seven standards. So every Thursday this month, we're going to have lunch together and unpack another part of the speaker brand code, because I do believe that speakers should know what these conversations should be like with those that they want to support for an event experience. And I hope that this conversation challenged you to think differently about your speaking business. Remember, your speaker brand isn't about your logo or your website or your reel. It's the confidence someone has in hiring you before you ever step on stage. So if this conversation is resonating with you, I'd love for you to share it with another speaker who needs to hear it. And I'll definitely want to see you back here next week, because this is, I think, an important conversation. So if you have questions, make sure to drop them in the chat, and so that we can stay connected. Because I love my lunch. I do. So I don't want to keep you too long in having the conversation, but I could speak about this for hours. But I will say this, when I was, when I had my business supporting speakers behind the scenes, and let me see if I can adjust this just a little bit. So the concierge service, our team was an extension of that speaker, whatever it is that they needed. And of course, speakers, they need a lot of different things. They need a lot of stuff, especially on event day. And I was just so excited just to make sure that I could help someone that was creating a message be really prepared, to be professional. And my ultimate goal really was to protect the event organizer. So even if they're frustrated or whatever with the speaker doesn't feel it. And whatever is being communicated by the speaker, or they're missing deadlines, I'm protecting their brand from the client. And just making sure that these two different motives come together, so that really the event experience got exactly what was necessary, that the goal was reached. And sometimes I think that people may create an event and not have a clear goal of how will we notice that there was a win. And so the concierge service, having teams to support speakers behind the scenes, it was so much fun. My team would go anywhere in the country just to make sure that they're setting up the back of the room for the sales or book signings. They were everywhere doing everything. And it was a level of professionalism that came with that. But my original vision when I started my company in 2018 was to really team up with the speaker. Like, I want to work directly with the speaker because I understand, there's so much that I understand from a speaker's perspective. And then when I learned that speakers are like, listen, we can't afford your concierge service. Like, I'm trying to get paid for this event and not share any of the resources and money. And so we had to adjust our messaging, that we worked with the event organizer and the meeting planners that were bringing in the speakers. And so sitting at that, in that seat, being able to hear how they were looking at vetting their individual speakers, how much they were going to pay each of these speakers, and why or why not, why they selected one speaker versus another. And our team coming in to just do the speaker kickoff calls and having those conversations. And it's so interesting because even well-vetted speakers, will show up and not execute. So, but again, my original vision was working and talking and connecting with the actual speaker. And so the speaker brand code allows me to have these authentic conversations with the speakers based on my experience of what I got to see, know, and grow into. And so really looking forward to sharing this vision because my hope is that speakers get to a place where how they show up, not just on the stage, but prior to, is already thought out. It is already, um, it's already created. There's already a standard there, and I think that sometimes we miss that because we're in the I got to get the content together. I got to get all these pieces together. And even for myself, as I'm preparing to go and speak for a few different opportunities that are coming up, having certain things already in place is so very helpful. So you don't have to recreate the wheel every single time. Because if I'm always focusing on visibility, 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 but never really working on the actual business behind the brand, it's just a waste of time. A waste of time. Because there is a time to work on your brand, and then there's a time to be like just in it. So I'm really, really excited to have these conversations every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time so that we could really unpack not only the code itself, but to really just come together as um, speakers, those that, are really having a hand in adding value on this stage. And so I'm so super excited. So if there's any questions you have, please make sure to drop them. I'm looking forward to having lunch with you every Thursday. And as we're leading up, we do have an awesome 3-day virtual intensive. So if you are an established speaker and you do want to understand more about um, clarity around your brand, your speaking brand, and also being really clear on the opportunities that you're looking at and understanding what readiness actually looks like and what does it mean. I will make sure you have access to click the link and attend. So it's at the end of July. And this is going to be really exciting because for 3 days, I will be able to share with you how you're able to look at your speaking business as a business, as an arm of your business, and looking at your systems and processes and making sure that you're ready for the opportunities that you're so interested in. Because I think that there are some dream stages that speakers want to be on. So if that is you, please definitely let me know, let my team know that you would like to attend. We would love to have you for the 3-day intensive. And I called it intensive intentionally because it is intense. This is getting some work done on thinking about how you're currently showing up, how your brand is currently signaling to the market, and how do we make sure that everything that you have meant to put out into the world, that it is being positioned in the way that you expected it to. Well, I am going to actually go eat my lunch, and I really just appreciate you guys having some time with me and looking forward to having a conversation next week. And I'll make sure that you have access to the details for that. And just one thing, there's something that I've been like ruminating on. It's like right there. Um, and it's this quote, because I'm starting to quote myself because once I start talking about events, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is it. Your speaker brand isn't your logo. It isn't your credentials. It isn't your headshot. Honestly, your brand really, it's all about the confidence that someone has in hiring you before you ever step on stage. And I want to keep saying that because when we can shift our mindset to how do I ensure somebody is confident enough or I'm trustworthy enough that they would bring me in and pay me to get on a stage to communicate a message that's going to be effective and noteworthy for their attendees, and that it's helping them transform or it's helping them to change a belief or to take action. And sometimes our brands aren't currently communicating that. So I hope this was helpful. You guys have a great rest of your day, and looking forward to seeing you guys next Thursday, whatever date that is. But I look forward to it. Take care, and I'll see you next week.